Have you ever looked around your home, or maybe glanced at your latest bank statement, and quietly asked yourself, how did this all get here? It's a question many of us find ourselves asking, especially in these later years of life. After 60, so much changes. The house that was once filled with the noise of children running through the halls is quieter now. The calendar isn't packed with work deadlines or PTA meetings anymore. There are longer stretches of time to sit, to think, to just be. And in those quiet moments, we finally notice things we didn't have the space or energy to notice before. The golden light of the morning sun through the kitchen window, the comforting chirp of birds outside, the joy of your granddaughter's laughter echoing in the living room. But as life slows, many of our old spending habits don't. In fact, some of them stubbornly stick around, and worse, they quietly steal the peace we've spent a lifetime working for. And we don't always see it happening. These habits, these patterns, they were built during the busier years. Years when they served a purpose, perhaps even helped us cope. But now, many of them no longer fit the life we are trying to live. That's what I want to talk about today. Not to make anyone feel guilty. Goodness knows, we've all made choices that seemed right at the time. I'm here to invite you, gently, lovingly, to take a fresh look, to see which habits you might want to release, so you can create even more space for the joy and peace you deserve now. And if any of this resonates with you, I hope you'll leave a like or a comment below. On this channel, Vibrant Elders, we're building a community of wisdom and encouragement, and your story might just be the light someone else needs today. Now then, let's begin. Imagine standing in front of your closet on a quiet Sunday morning. Sunlight is streaming in. You're planning to visit the grandkids later. Maybe stop by the farmer's market. You open the closet door, and there it is, a wardrobe built for a life you no longer live. My friend Susan, a retired accountant from Chicago, knows this feeling all too well. For decades, Susan built her career in the banking world. Her days were filled with client meetings, conferences, professional networking, and her wardrobe reflected that life. Tailored suits, silk blouses, elegant heels. Each piece was carefully chosen, a kind of armor for the world she navigated. But after retirement, Susan's days change. Now, they were about morning walks in the park, lunches with her dear friends, afternoons spent reading on her sun porch. And yet, her closet remained frozen in time, filled with clothes that no longer served her life. One afternoon, after nearly tripping over a stack of designer pumps, Susan paused. She stood there for a long moment and asked herself, out loud, who am I dressing for now? That single question unlocked something powerful. Susan realized her worth was no longer tied to what she wore. The labels, the trends, they didn't define her anymore. True elegance, she saw, came from presence, from the way her smile greeted her grandson, from the kindness in her voice when she spoke with her neighbor, from the gentle confidence that shone through her eyes. So she gave herself permission to let go. She donated items that no longer felt right for this chapter of her life. She kept a few beloved pieces that sparked joy, and she began choosing clothes for comfort, for softness, for authenticity. Now, when someone compliments her appearance, Susan smiles and says, "Thank you, I'm wearing peace." And that, my friend, is the kind of beauty no brand can buy. You see, after 60, we no longer need to prove ourselves through what we wear. The most beautiful thing you can wear is your own joy. So next time you feel the pull to buy another expensive outfit or handbag, pause, ask yourself, does this reflect who I am today, or who I used to be trying to impress? Because you, just as you are beautiful beyond measure. And as we begin to release the pressure to look the part, there is another form of pressure many of us quietly carry, the relentless push to keep up with technology. It seems like every other week, there's a commercial for the newest smartphone, the latest smartwatch, the sleekest tablet. The message is clear: if you don't have this, you're behind. But here's what no one tells us: you are not behind. You are wise. I think of my neighbor Walter, a retired electrician in Tampa. Walter always prided himself on staying up to date. So when he saw an ad for a phone that promised to capture the stars, he thought, why not? He spent over $1,200 on it. But once he brought it home, the challenges began. The layout was different. Notifications popped up constantly. He struggled to find his photos. Soon, Walter stopped using the phone out of frustration. He even missed a few important calls because he didn't know how to answer them. One afternoon, he powered up his old phone and felt an unexpected wave of relief. It still connected him to his family. It still let him see pictures of his grandkids. And most importantly, it brought him peace. In a world that constantly pushes us to keep up, it is an act of wisdom to choose what truly serves your life, not what someone else says you need. If your current phone or tablet still meets your needs, embrace that. You are not missing out. You are choosing calm over chaos. Remember, connection is built through love, not pixels. Now, as we begin to release the need to chase technology, there is another weight that often lingers, one that is less visible but deeply felt. Credit card debt. Many of us first used credit cards as tools, a way to handle emergencies, to show love through gifts, or to make ends meet during lean times. But over the years, those balances can grow. The interest adds up, quietly compounding, even as the memory of the purchase fades. I'll never forget my cousin Jean, a retired teacher from North Carolina. After her husband passed away, she often filled lonely evenings with online shopping. A new quilt for the guest room, little gifts for the grandkids, a decorative lamp for the living room. Each purchase seemed small, until one day, Jean sat down with her credit card statements and saw the truth. She had paid over $7 in interest alone. Her heart sank. At first, she felt overwhelmed with guilt. But then, Jean chose a different path. She picked up the phone, called her bank, and set up a payment plan. She forgave herself for the past, and with each small step forward, she began to reclaim her peace. If you are carrying credit card debt today, please hear this. You are not alone, and you are not a failure. Many older adults carry this burden quietly, but there is always a way forward. There is help, there is hope, and remember, real wealth after 60 isn't about the size of your bank account. It is about the lightness of your heart. As we close this part of our conversation, take a deep breath. You are already doing something powerful simply by being here and listening. And the beautiful truth? Every small choice you make is a step toward the peace and freedom you deserve. You've already taken a brave first step, simply by being here and reflecting on these habits with me. And I want you to remember, this isn't about making sweeping changes overnight. It's about small, thoughtful choices, ones that open the door to a life of greater peace and freedom. Now, sometimes the things that weigh us down aren't big, dramatic purchases. They're small, quiet ones, little charges that sneak onto our bank statements month after month, barely noticed, until one day we wonder where all the money has gone. I'm talking about subscriptions. I remember when the only subscription my family had was the local newspaper. It arrived faithfully each morning, and my father would read it cover to cover with his cup of coffee. But today, subscriptions are everywhere. Streaming services, fitness apps, meditation programs, online magazines. The companies behind them make it effortless to sign up, and frustratingly difficult to cancel. And the truth is, they're counting on us to forget. That's exactly what happened to my friend George, a retired firefighter in Denver. During the pandemic, when isolation was at its worst, George sought out comfort in the form of entertainment. He signed up for Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, a documentary streaming service, and a handful of other apps that promised endless content. At first, it felt good. It was a way to pass the time and feel connected to the outside world. But as the months went by and life began to open back up, George returned to his old joys, fishing trips with his buddies, cookouts with the family, afternoons spent in his woodshop. The streaming services? They sat unused. One rainy afternoon, his daughter helped him review his bank statements. To their surprise, George was paying nearly $120 a month on subscriptions he barely used. That added up to over $1.400 a year. And when George saw that number, he shook his head and said, "That could have been 2 fishing trips or a new rod and reel." So together, they sat down and made a list. They canceled every subscription that wasn't bringing value. George kept just one service he truly enjoyed. And he also discovered his local library offered free movies and audiobooks through an app called Libby, no monthly fee required. It's a beautiful reminder. Every dollar we spend should reflect what matters to us now. If you haven't reviewed your subscriptions in a while, I invite you to take a look this week. You might be surprised by what you find, and how much lighter you feel after letting go of what no longer serves you. As we begin to clear away those small financial leaks, it's also worth thinking about where we invest our hope. And for many older adults, that hope sometimes takes the form of lottery tickets. Now, I want to say this gently, because I know for some, buying a ticket here and there feels like a bit of harmless fun. And there's nothing wrong with dreaming. But what I've seen, time and again, is that those small purchases can quietly become a habit, a ritual that carries more weight than we realize. I think of my Aunt Millie in Missouri. After she retired, she started buying a few lottery tickets each week. At first, it was just for fun, a little thrill at the checkout counter. But over time, it became something more, a ritual, a hope, a quiet longing for the life she imagined if she ever won big. One afternoon, while cleaning out her purse, Aunt Millie found a stack of losing tickets. Curious, she added up what she'd spent over the past 2 years, over $3,500. And in that moment, her heart sank, not because of the money itself, but because of what it represented. The trips she hadn't taken, the experiences she hadn't given herself, the small joys she'd postponed, always waiting for, someday, to arrive. But here's what makes her story beautiful. Aunt Millie didn't sit in regret. She chose a new path. She created a jar labeled Joy Fund. Each week, instead of buying tickets, she placed $10 into that jar. Over time, that money became real experiences, a weekend getaway with her sister, a new sewing machine she'd wanted for years, surprise treats for her great-grandchildren. And you know what? The joy she created for herself was far more fulfilling than any lottery win could have been. If you've been leaning on lottery tickets, I invite you to pause and ask, what am I really hoping to gain? And is there another way I can bring that feeling into my life today? Because you are already rich in wisdom, in love, in life experience. You don't need luck to create a beautiful life. You need intention and a heart open to the joy that's already within reach. Now, as we reflect on where we place our hope, there's another area that often becomes a quiet drain, not just on our finances, but on our health and well-being. Food delivery. I understand this one deeply, because I've walked through it myself. After my husband passed away, the kitchen became a place of sadness. Cooking for one felt lonely. Sitting at that big table alone brought tears more often than not. So I leaned on delivery. Thai food on Mondays, pizza on Fridays, burgers on the nights when grief felt too heavy. At first, it was a comfort, but over time, it became the norm, and with it came changes I hadn't expected. My energy dipped, my clothes grew tighter, my blood pressure crept up, and emotionally, I felt more disconnected from myself than ever. One day, I sat down and reviewed my spending. Nearly $2 that year had gone to takeout. That was my wake-up call. I made a simple promise to myself: 3 home-cooked meals a week. Not perfection, not fancy dinners, just nourishing food made with care. I started small: roasted vegetables, a pot of soup, grilled chicken with herbs from my little garden. And something beautiful happened. The act of cooking became a ritual of healing. The smell of onions sizzling in olive oil, the simple joy of setting the table, even if it was just for me. I even began inviting my neighbor June over for lunch once a week. Suddenly, the kitchen wasn't a place of sadness anymore. It was a space of connection and care. Now, let me be clear. There's nothing wrong with using food delivery from time to time. We all need a break now and then. But when it becomes the default, it can quietly rob us, not just financially, but emotionally and physically. If you've been relying on it a bit too much, consider making one small shift. Prepare one meal this week. Invite a friend, light a candle, celebrate the simple act of nourishing yourself. Because every meal you cook is an act of love, not just for your body, but for your spirit. And that, my friend, is the kind of nourishment that no delivery app can provide. You and I both know that sometimes, the things that weigh us down aren't the big decisions, but the small ones we carry silently. And as we grow older, we begin to recognize the value of lightening that load, not just in our wallets, but in our hearts and homes. Now, we've talked about habits that quietly drain our finances, subscriptions we no longer need, lottery tickets that steal our hope, and food delivery that pulls us away from nourishing ourselves. But there are a few more patterns I see often in this chapter of life. And they're worth exploring gently. Because the goal here isn't to feel guilty, it's to feel free. One thing I see in so many homes, maybe you've seen it too, is unused exercise equipment. A treadmill in the guest room, an exercise bike in the corner of the living room, dumbbells tucked under the bed. And I want to say this first. Buying that equipment usually comes from a beautiful place, a desire to take care of your body and stay strong. That's something to be proud of, not ashamed of, but life has its way of shifting our routines. We get excited, we buy the bike or the elliptical machine, and for a few weeks we use it faithfully. Then life happens. Maybe your knee starts bothering you. Maybe a grandchild comes to stay for a while. Maybe the motivation just fades. Before long, that shiny equipment becomes a silent reminder of what we think we should be doing, but aren't. And with that comes guilt. Every time we walk past it, there's that voice in our head, "You failed." I want to tell you what I told my friend Nancy, who went through this exact experience. Nancy is 69 and lives in Georgia. One January, inspired by a New Year's article on senior fitness, she ordered a top-of-the-line elliptical machine. At first, she loved it. Every morning, she got on that machine and felt proud. But then, her daughter came to visit, and her schedule shifted. Her knees started to ache a bit, and soon, the elliptical began to gather dust. Weeks turned into months, and every time she passed it, she felt heavier, not physically, but emotionally. Here's what Nancy realized after we talked. It wasn't about the machine. Her body didn't need an expensive piece of equipment to be healthy. What it needed was joyful, sustainable movement. She ended up selling the elliptical to a neighbor and instead joined a local walking group that met at the park twice a week. There was no pressure, no guilt, just friendly faces, fresh air, and gentle movement. And Nancy began to look forward to those walks, not just for the exercise, but for the connection. If you have an unused treadmill, a yoga mat you haven't unrolled in months, or weights gathering dust, please hear this. You are not lazy. You are human, and your health journey isn't about chasing youth or perfection. It's about honoring the body you have now and moving in ways that bring you joy. That could mean dancing to your favorite music in the kitchen, gardening, walking with a friend, even stretching in your living room. Movement should feel like a celebration of life, not a punishment. Let go of the guilt. Embrace what moves you. Now, there's another pattern I want to talk about, a quieter one, but one I see many older adults fall into. Expensive personal growth courses. Now, I believe in lifelong learning. I truly do. Staying curious and engaged is one of the keys to aging well. But there's a whole industry out there that preys on older adults, selling glossy programs that promise transformation, clarity, and happiness, often for thousands of dollars. And these programs often come with big promises. Discover your true purpose in 6 weeks, or unlock lifelong happiness with our proven method. It's easy to be tempted, especially if you're feeling a bit lost after retirement, or after your role in life has shifted. I think of Barbara, a 71-year-old retired nurse from Minnesota. After decades of caring for others, she suddenly had quiet mornings and long afternoons. When she saw an ad for a $3,500 life coaching course, she signed up, hoping it would help her find new purpose. For months, she attended online sessions, filled out workbooks, and journaled through the program. But by the end, Barbara had a powerful realization. The wisdom she truly needed was already inside her. She had raised children, cared for patients at their most vulnerable, survived loss, loved deeply, laughed often. Those life lessons were worth more than any online course. Barbara closed her laptop and chose a different path. She joined a local book club, volunteered at a women's shelter, began mentoring young nurses, and in those real, human connections, she rediscovered her purpose. So I want to tell you this. From my heart, you are not broken. You do not need fixing. You have earned your wisdom through decades of living. If you feel lost or unsure, seek connection, not consumption. Offer your time and heart to others. That's where real growth happens. Before you spend thousands on a polished program, ask yourself, could I find meaning by giving instead of buying? By connecting instead of consuming? Because sometimes the greatest course you'll ever take is called life, and you, my friend, have already passed it with honors. Now, there's one last spending habit I want to gently invite you to reflect on: buying a brand new car. I know the feeling. You've worked hard your whole life. Maybe you've even said, I deserve something new, and you do deserve comfort and safety. But here's the truth many dealerships won't tell you. The moment you drive that brand new car off the lot, it loses thousands of dollars in value. And for those of us living on a fixed income, that kind of loss can weigh heavy. I think of Edith from Illinois, who faced this exact situation. After years of driving a reliable old sedan, Edith decided to treat herself to a brand new SUV, fully loaded, fresh off the lot. At first, it was wonderful, the new car smell, the compliments from friends. But soon, the reality set in. The payments tightened her budget. The insurance cost more. She found herself saying no to lunches with friends and worrying about every unexpected expense. Eventually, Edith traded the SUV for a certified pre-owned car, 2 years old. Low mileage, still under warranty. Her payments were cut in half. And with the money she saved, she finally took a scenic train trip through the Rockies, a lifelong dream. That experience brought her more joy than any new car ever could. So before you sign on the dotted line, ask yourself, what do I truly need from a car? Is it about comfort and reliability? Or is it about the idea of having something new? Could a well-maintained used car meet your needs without draining your savings? Remember, the real destination is your life, and the right car is simply the one that gets you there with joy and ease. You've already walked with me through so much in this conversation, reflecting on habits that no longer serve you. And the beautiful thing is, it's never too late to choose differently. Every small decision you make, canceling a subscription, moving joyfully, preparing a meal, driving a car that gives you peace, is a step toward a lighter, more meaningful life. You've earned your peace. You've earned your freedom. Now is the time to claim it fully, one beautiful choice at a time. You and I both know that after 60, life starts teaching us a new kind of wisdom. It's not the loud, ambitious wisdom of our younger years, the one that pushed us to climb ladders, accumulate more, impress others. No, this is the quieter kind of wisdom, the kind that knows that less is often more. That simplicity brings peace. That small, thoughtful choices matter more than grand gestures. And that's what this entire conversation has been about: choosing to live lighter. Choosing to notice which habits no longer serve the life we want now. Choosing to release what feels heavy, so we can carry forward what truly matters. Sometimes it starts with something as small as letting go of an old subscription. I remember when I helped my friend Elaine do this very thing. She had never really thought about it. Those $9.99 and $14.99 charges just quietly appeared on her bank statements each month. But when we sat down together and listed them all out, she was shocked. Over $1 a year was going to services she barely touched anymore. And as we canceled them one by one, she didn't just feel relief, she felt empowered. She told me later, it wasn't just about the money. It was about taking my life back. That's the heart of this work. It's not about living with less for the sake of less. It's about living with intention, choosing to spend your energy, time, and money on what truly nourishes your life today. And that looks different for everyone. For some, it might mean walking away from the pressure to buy the latest phone or gadget. I think of my friend Walter again. After going back to his older, simpler phone, he felt a sense of ease he hadn't experienced in years. He told me, "Now I spend more time talking to my grandkids and less time figuring out how to use some fancy new app." That's the kind of freedom that truly matters, not keeping up with the latest trends, but staying connected to what fills your heart. And sometimes, it means making peace with the past. I think of Jean and her credit card debt. It took courage for her to face those statements, to call her bank, to make a plan. But even more than that, it took courage for her to forgive herself. That's something we don't talk about enough. Forgiveness, especially self-forgiveness, is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself in this chapter of life. Because you are not the sum of your past purchases. You are not defined by any number on a bank statement. You are a whole, wise, beautiful person, and every day is a new opportunity to choose differently. Sometimes that means finding new ways to bring joy into your life. Like Aunt Millie and her Joy Fund. I loved watching how she turned what used to be lottery tickets into real experiences, weekend getaways, gifts for her great-grandchildren, simple pleasures that brought her so much more happiness than chasing a jackpot ever could. And sometimes, it means returning to old rituals that nourish the soul. When I think back to my own journey with food delivery, I'm reminded of how powerful it felt to reclaim my kitchen, to cook simple meals again, to share them with a friend, to feel connected to myself through the act of preparing food with love. That's the kind of wealth we can choose every day. And sometimes, it means redefining what strength looks like. Like Nancy, who realized she didn't need an expensive elliptical to be healthy, she just needed joyful movement that fit her life. Or Barbara, who saw that the wisdom she was seeking in expensive personal growth courses had already been written in the story of her own life. Or Edith, who chose a pre-owned car over a brand new one, freeing up her budget for experiences that made her heart sing. These are not just financial choices. They are life choices. They are decisions to honor the life you are living now, not the life you used to have. Not the one someone else says you should want. Because after 60, your life belongs to you. And it is far too precious to waste on guilt, pressure, or habits that no longer bring you joy. So I invite you to take a moment right now. Take a breath, and gently ask yourself, what am I ready to release? What habit, belief, or expense no longer serves who I am today? Start small. One subscription, one drawer cleaned out, one meal cooked with love, one guilt released. Because each small choice creates momentum. And over time, those small choices will lead you to a life that feels lighter, freer, and more aligned with the beautiful person you are now. And please, if this conversation has resonated with you, I would be honored if you shared it with someone you love. A friend, a sister, a neighbor. You never know who might be carrying the same silent weight, and how much your courage could inspire them to let go. And if you feel comfortable, I invite you to share your story in the comments below. Tell us one small change you're making this week. Your story could be the spark that lights the way for someone else. You have earned your peace. My friend, you have earned the right to live these years with clarity, ease, and deep joy. Now go live it, one beautiful choice at a time.